Oh, a new visitor from the woods. Welcome. Are you a lost wanderer? Tired of a long journey? Then join me. Sit beside the fireplace, and let me tell you some stories that may soothe your mood as you regain your strength. Are you all set? Good. Let's start our story with reference to Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. We are not going to dive deep into the scientific aspect of it, however. Absorbing the principle of that phrase will surely fit our story for today. Ever since Aurelian's soul forged his first star and added a few more in the distant galaxies, life blossomed into existence. But not everyone was happy with that outcome, especially the Void-born. This is the story of Bel'veth, the Empress of the Void. The Void was once an empty nothingness, but upon the birth of a new dimension, the Runeterra, in a sense, almost everything was the byproduct of Aurelian's soul's star creation. Celestial realm and the Void were the only realms that were supposedly in the cosmos, but physical realms popped out as life thrived in the cosmos. Just like what Bard, a celestial being, had noticed, Runeterra creates a disharmonized noise, disturbing the Void's silence as new entities were forcefully pulled into reality. These phenomena led to the creation of the first Void-borns, holding the task to silence the noise from the physical realms. These Void-borns were the subjects of the Watchers, the ancient beings of the Void. Since they were created for a sole purpose, the Void-borns held an innate desire to consume all of reality so they could return to the perfect silence of the old Void. If other entities believed that there was another way to handle the disharmony, the Watchers straight out preferred the old times, and the Void-borns were the ones tasked to do so. Throughout the years, the Watchers watched the mortals through small open rifts in Runeterra. Even though they could not access the physical world yet, they were confident that time would eventually work in their favor. And just as the Watchers had expected, the opportunity presented itself as the mortals' innate destructive nature paved the way. In fact, there are two events that opened the gateway from the Void. One was the time when Shurima fought Ikathia, and in desperation to overthrow the Empire, Ikathia released the Void in the battle, causing the Void War event. Another one was when the Watchers attempted an invasion of the Freljord by influencing a reclusive leader of the Frost Guard named Lysandra. The mortals may have won both events, but it still gave the Watchers a part of what they wanted. As chaos continues, more rifts between the dimensions would rip open and increase the abrasive contact between both realities. The Void, mutating from the constant contact with the Runeterran reality, would develop an allergic reaction that took the form of a cancerous pocket of reality located underneath the deserts of Shurima, called the Lavender Sea. Littered with hideously remade shapes and forms meant to mimic the world above, this pocket would mutate so heavily that it practically became sentient, managing to deny the commands of the Watchers and embrace its own desires, wishing to consume and remake all of existence in its image rather than destroy it. And so another threat to Runeterra was born, but this time it was outside of the Watchers' control, nor the mortals. A separate entity aiming to recreate the world the way it wanted without following anyone. The Lavender Sea and the creatures inside of it were still considered as Void-born, and since they were the byproduct between the Watchers and the mortals' consistent battles, the Lavender Sea held both principles, consuming the world but creating a new one ruled by them. Starting with the Reformation, the Lavender Sea started to consume more living creatures near them. They also can absorb the knowledge and emotion from whoever they consume, allowing them to gain more concepts about society and all After consuming more sentient beings, the Lavender Sea took inspiration from those it consumed and began to crave a leader to represent itself. Something that could physically interact with the mortals of this reality, but they couldn't do so yet, since their prowess was still insufficient. Perhaps a catalyst could unlock their full potential. Eventually, a strong candidate was sensed by the Lavender Sea, as this person roamed in the vast desert of Shurima. The Lavender Sea did not waste any time and immediately made contact with the Shuriman boy named Malzahar, declaring him the prophet of the void and granting him visions of an Empress to feed mortal minds and memories to. Malzahar was overwhelmed, feeling he was the chosen one to serve the Voidborn. He embraced his new purpose and dedicated his life to the unification of all life, fully trusting the new emergent void to be the gateway to Runeterra's salvation. Malzahar played his role well, feeding the Lavender Sea as he strategically operated the birth of the Empress. Eventually, a large rift was opened in Shurima, and Malzahar managed to sink the entire Shuriman port city of Bel'veth into the void, allowing the Lavender Sea to completely consume and assimilate the city and some of the surrounding ocean. It was a massive feast as the entire city crumbled to the might of the new void. By consuming the collective consciousness of the entire city, Bel'veth was finally born as a physical manifestation of the Lavender Sea. Naming herself after the city she consumed at her birth, Bel'veth was born from the combined memories, experiences, and emotions of everyone who lived in the city when it sank, granting her millions of years worth of knowledge and near omniscience. Still hungering to consume and remake all of reality, she then devised and perfected a plan to consume both Runeterra as well as ultimately stop her progenitors, the Watchers. Malzahar continued to be her prophet, setting up the next city she would devour as Bel'veth ran rampage wherever she set foot. No realms will be safe once Bel'veth devours enough power to combat anyone. No more celestial realm. No more Watchers from the void. Only the new world of void led by the Empress herself when the time comes. From within the Lavender Sea, Bel'veth continues to enact her intricate plan, telepathically communicating with many mortal minds in the world above, most notably her prophet Malzahar. Bel'veth also tried to communicate with other Voidborns, but the one that she urged to accompany her with the mission was Vel'Koz, the Eye of the Void. Being one of the first Voidborn created by the Watchers, his task was to keep an eye on the physical realm, study every aspect, and inform the Watchers. Despite holding a century worth of knowledge about the mortals, Vel'Koz has zero empathy for them. All of the mentioned feats pushed Bel'veth to actively gain Vel'Koz to her side. Bel'veth also sent out many void-born remora, drone-like creatures spawned from the Lavender Sea and shaped after the sea life that surrounded the city of Bel'veth. Living as extensions of Bel'veth's will, they were often sent out as swarms, overwhelming enemies to further Bel'veth's plans. At some point, a group of specialized remora, later nicknamed Lamplights, fought the Void Huntress Kai Sa while traveling through an underground passage in the Shuriman Desert. These Lamplights soon fled to the Sai Khalik, a desert region, and made contact with a colony of Zersai, granting the hatchlings and callers a peculiar soft blue glow and seemingly mutating them to follow Bel'veth's commands. Angered by the intruders on their territory, a furious Dunebreaker attacked and killed the Lamplights. Kaisa and Talia, a nomadic earth mage from Shurima, helped the Dunebreaker to annihilate the Voidlings. The efforts of Kaisa and Talia, were impactful enough to restrain the invasive remora from advancing to the vast desert. But the Voidborn still managed to accomplish their task and mutate a new species. Zersai, once a sentient group of beasts roaming around Shurima, were now Voidborn, just like the Remoras. At first, the battle seemed to be won by Kaisa and Talia. However, it was a short victory, as the Queen of Zersai unburrowed from the ground. Her name is Rek'Sai, and she is by far the largest of her kind. The battle between Rek'Sai and Kaisa became the reason why Kaisa fell through a massive hole underground and landed inside the Lavender Sea itself, which Bel'veth anticipated thanks to her careful planning. It turns out that everything was Bel'veth's plan to finally meet the infamous Void Huntress, slaughtering their kind. Bel'veth revealed herself in a vaguely disguised form to Kaisa, the face of a middle-aged woman with gray skin, deep purple eyes, and a third eye in the center of her forehead. Draped on the side of her head is a dorsal fin-like structure, mimicking a strand of hair. Her face isn't very animated, almost like a statue, and her mouth doesn't match her speech. Her shoulders have large spikes acting as shoulder pads, and she wraps herself in her wings to mimic the appearance of a regal cloak. Standing 10 feet tall with a 22-foot wingspan, she has a tail that drags behind her with a massive bulb at the end. Bel'veth's true form looks more like a golden stingray-like Voidborn, growing into a gargantuan size and revealing her face to be a false head attached to a lure-like appendage. Her true face is revealed to be located at the center of her body, where the chest would be. A massive gaping maw with teeth and 4 beady purple eyes. The protrusions on her shoulders are revealed to actually be horns, and her wings completely unfurl, appearing as massive pectoral fins with pointed stingers at each tip. Even with human-like features, Kaisa attempted to attack Bel'veth in response to their first encounter. However, Kaisa was restrained as Bel'veth slowly shifted into her true, monstrous form. Trapped and cornered, Kaisa began to realize that this creature was the embodiment of the entire city, as Bel'veth formally introduced herself, revealing that she named herself after the city she consumed, something that Kaisa thought was impossible for Voidborn to be capable of. That moment, Kaisa noticed how intelligent the Empress was, indicating that not only was Bel'veth as massive as the fallen city in Shurima, but she also extremely surpassed the intellectual capability of all Voidborn Kaisa had encountered. Slightly frightened by the alarmingly intelligent Voidborn, Kaisa exclaimed that she would kill Bel'veth by any means, to which Bel'veth simply shrugged the threat, telling Kaisa that she wouldn't be able to do so no matter what course of action she would take. Bel'veth sees herself as truly inevitable. It would only be a matter of time before everything was swallowed by her and then recreated. Confident in her capabilities, Bel'veth even explained that she already calculated and formed a perfectly intricate plan to consume all of reality and that of others. Bel'veth also told Kaisa that Kassadin, who attempted to stop her already, ended with little to no success. Shocked by the revelation about her father, Kaisa accused Bel'veth of lying, despite Bel'veth stating that she simply doesn't see the use in lying. It was a long back and forth, but the conversation was far from over. By explaining her plan to eventually stop the Watchers from completely destroying reality, Bel'veth began to bargain and offered Kaisa a choice. Help her find a way to defeat her Watcher progenitors, and in return, Bel'veth will spare humanity for a period of time. Or resist and simply be destroyed, with the rest of existence, either by Bel'veth or the Watchers. Obviously, Kaisa hated the options, as both led to the impending doom of Runeterra. Kaisa wanted to stop the Voidborn from destroying their home, not to agree with a pseudo-agreement presented by Bel'veth. To be clear, Bel'veth could just kill Kaisa on the spot and squash her effortlessly, since Kaisa swore a threat straight up to her face. But Bel'veth has other plans, and as a smart tactician like her, Kaisa could potentially be a major piece to her grand plan against the Watchers. Bel'veth explains that though her victory is inevitable, she is willing to give mortals a chance to fight against her by sparing their lives for a short period of time. The main reason for this was her overflowing confidence, believing no amount of time would help the mortals succeed against her. At that point, Kaisa was furious at the prospect of working with this void monster. Kaisa attempted to attack Bel'veth, but it was once again no effect. Bel'veth then stabbed Kaisa in the chest with the tip of her wings and lifted her up. She firmly told Kaisa to seek out the Watchers and find a way to destroy them before sending her flying upwards toward the surface, emerging out of the sands and leaving with Bel'veth's proposition. Their conversation was leading nowhere, since it was evident that Kaisa was adamant about her principles, and because of that, Bel'veth was the one who made the decision for Kaisa. Bel'veth strongly believes that she will get what she wants either way. Do you think Kaisa would ever find a way to help the mortals fight against the Watchers and Bel'veth? Or maybe Bel'veth is truly inevitable, and siding with her is the best decision for the fate of all realities? That would be a story for another time. For now, enjoy the fireplace.